A solar eclipse, the shadow of the moon covering a lifeless wasteland, but the mountains, which had faces. A huge six-eyed monster started growling at someone, preparing to attack. It was attacking a man who was ready to fight back with his dagger. In order to overcome his fear of the monster, he also began to scream. And immediately after the monster moved at him with incredible speed, the hero plunged his blade right into the black worm's mouth. He swung his dagger to finish the monster completely. Purple blood splattered his sleeve. He shoved the dead, slimy worm away from him and exhaled in relief, but wiped his face looking at it. "Finally, I was able to destroy at least some monster," said the main character, but was then interrupted. "Hear you, unawakened!" shouted an unknown voice. He got up from the rock he was sitting on and looked at the people fighting dozens of monsters that were several times stronger than the worm. The monsters were huge in size, some even flying. "What are you doing now? Why do you think we took you here? Quickly start gathering useful resources!" shouted the man in the red shirt, after which the man in the glasses added in agreement. "Don't you see any dead creatures here? Or do you think we hired you for fun?" "Excuse me." The hero gathered himself abruptly. "How useless these porters are," said the man in red, walking towards the next wave of monsters. The protagonist looked at them contemptuously. "Damn. The world has changed a lot since the discovery of the abyss. The abyss is an otherworld where creatures of many different kinds exist, as if they came out of man's sick fantasy," he said, looking at the warriors fighting, with magical weapons. "After the discovery of this abyss, humans began to awaken abilities from the category of fantasy, after which all of humanity is trying to cleanse this world of monsters," he continued to say, looking at the same warriors who had activated their abilities. "And that's why people are judged not by education, but by abilities and levels of awakening," said the hero as he walked up to another monster and put his hand to the place where the heart should be. "But if you have a high rank, a good and peaceful life is guaranteed to you," he said, pulling out a beautiful purple stone from the monster. "But I was not so lucky. I became a common porter, carrying the things of the awakened. I still haven't awakened any abilities at 35. And until I have them, I won't be able to live like them," he thought with bitterness in his eyes. "I've gathered all the resources in the area," shouted the protagonist, but he heard nothing in response. He turned around and saw a field of dead warriors and cut trees in front of him. As he did, he also saw the men who had hired him among them. "What happened?" the hero asked. He would have continued asking such questions, but he was interrupted by an ominous voice. "Last one left," said the huge creature, who was shrouded in a magical, purple cloak. It had the hero in mind, advancing on him with slow but steady steps, spreading out its 6 arms. It was an SSS rank monster named Asmodeus. He dutifully continued to stare at the protagonist. With a shout, he once again drew his blade and rushed into battle at this gigantic creature. But the monster used its magic by extending 3 palms forward. And with a gust of wind he easily tore off the hero's arm before he even had time to realize anything. He fell to the ground and started screaming in pain. Asmodeus continued to look down on him, literally and figuratively. The monster began to approach him faster and faster. And then it came at him. And the creature used its magic, sending incomprehensible pink lines into the hero's head. The ends of those lines drilled into his head, blood flowing from there in rivers. "What kind of death is this? Ridiculous," he asked himself as the magic continued to sink into his head. "My parents died in a car accident, after which I was out of my mind for months. On top of that, I was bullied at school. And for the rest of my life, I was ignored because I'm just an ordinary porter." His whole life flew in front of the hero. "I hate myself. I hate my life. I hate waking up," he added because he could do no other. Drops of blood rolled down his cheek and fell to the floor. And as the next drop fell, it began to glow with an unnatural glow. This drop opened a portal, from which came the phrase, "All the conditions of awakening have been met." From the same portal, golden steps lined up, with a white entity standing on top of them. "What?" the hero asked in astonishment. He continued to stare at the white silhouette as it continued to stare at him. "So the main character continued to say with incomprehension. Turning around, he saw a frozen Asmodeus, and the dead body of the main character. "Why did he stop?" thought the protagonist, looking at the monster. "Did you wonder why Asmodeus stopped?" asked the white silhouette descending the stairs. "Who are you?" turned around sharply and asked the main character. "I don't know. Some call me king, some call me the greatest. But you don't need to know that," replied the silhouette in a calm, melodious voice. The silhouette created a space around itself that showed different worlds. "I must give you power," said the white creature, sitting on his golden chair. "What king? What power? Who is he anyway? Is he the one who stopped Asmodeus?" thought the hero with fear. "Don't be so distrustful of people. It's okay," the silhouette replied to his thoughts, whereupon the hero began to guess that his thoughts could be read. "I just saw your tenacity and willpower. Because of that, I chose you as the chosen 1-inch," said the white creature. It pointed its palm at the hero, whereupon the hero started barraging him with questions. "What do you mean you chose me? What's even going on here?" "Hush, just wait for the right moment. The day you realize everything will come sooner or later," the silhouette spoke, emitting a bright glow, which blinded the hero. Right from the sky, a black serpent with sharp teeth was rushing at the hero. "My key," the silhouette finished the dialogue. This serpent crashed into the ground with incredible force, taking the protagonist with it. Opening his eyes, he heard voices and people. "Is he asleep or what? What an idiot, he dares to ignore us. We should wake him up. Good morning!" And the next moment he got a hard slap. "Well, are you awake?" a voice asked, while the hero looked at them with incomprehension. "I wonder if you become docile if you get slapped," said a guy with red short hair, holding the hero by his shirt. "What? Behesh you?" thought the main character with great surprise. "How could this person from high school show up here?" he continued to think as he continued to be knocked in the face. "Taehyun, why aren't you answering?" Hexa asked. "How did this happen? I was in the abyss just now. Wait, power." The hero began to understand the situation a little at a time. Suddenly, he noticed something. In front of him, Daehoon saw a window of characteristics. But the most important thing he noticed was that he was 19 years old. "I've gone back 16 years? He thought in surprise. He thought with surprise. "Interesting, then that means," smiling, he said as he continued to be beaten. Daehoon started laughing hysterically, and because of that he stopped being beaten out of surprise. "What's wrong with you? Are you out of your mind? Did you get all your brains beaten out?" Hashu asked in surprise but at the same time with contempt. But the hero kept laughing. "You're at it again, aren't you? Masochist!" shouted the bully smugly. And at the same moment the hero's fist started flying at him. Hashu didn't even have time to react. He was instantly knocked out by this powerful blow. His friends, or one could say Hashu's subordinates, immediately became alarmed, one looking at the fallen boss and the other looking at Taehyun with apprehension. "That means I'm also," he repeated the phrase. "Awakened," he shouted with tears of joy in his eyes. As Taehyun got up, Hashu's friends couldn't understand what had happened. He wiped his tears and dirt from his face. But as soon as he recovered, Hashu's subordinates activated their abilities and started running at the hero, saying, "Daehoon, have you lost your mind? You realize you're a nobody." And when they reached him, one of them threw a fireball. But the main character is not a fool, he easily dodges the blow and prepares for his own blow. He hits right on the jaw, making an uppercut to his opponent. and to the other man with the icy hand kicks him in the stomach with all his might. 35 years, all my worthless life unawakened, I've been trying to fix it, thought the hero as he continued to knead his assailants. I tried to do everything. First I started by training my body. And then I started learning all about monsters from the abyss, also reading and learning different abilities. Well, what's without martial arts? The hero continued to think, remembering all his pathetic attempts to become awakened. So I don't have to lose to some bullies from school who don't know, said the protagonist as he watched the mangled bullies run at him again. Who don't know the basics? He shouted, throwing his opponents back a few meters. The bullies fell to the floor next to him, leaving a dent in it. As an option, by the way, I'll have to start my training again, he said in a now calm voice, crunching his fingers. Interesting situation, said a voice behind Taeyong. He turned around on him. So you're awakened? Hishu asked, coughing in parallel. Stones began to grow from his body. I'll tear you to pieces, he shouted, covering his body with stone, with only red hair and eyes left from his former body. Hishu started throwing blocks of stone, but they flew too slowly for Taehyun. With each new throw, the boulders sped up, and the hero was already having a hard time dodging them. And while he was distracted by dodging, Hishu flew at him from above, making huge, hard, stone sledgehammers out of his hands. He fell right on top of the hero, breaking the roof of the building they were on in the process. Hishu thought he was done with him and just started to rest. But it was not to be. The protagonist managed to get away from the epicenter of the impact and went behind the back of the stone man. Taehyun still hit Hishu in the face, and with a good amount of force. But then drops of blood were flying in different directions. It was blood from his hand because he had hit the stone after all. How's that for a twist? The stone man asked with a snide smile. Didn't expect that I could hurt myself, thought Taeyong as he tried to parry a very strong punch from Hishu. Daehoon flew aside from such a blow, but he managed to cover his body with his arms so that his ribs wouldn't be broken. With great force, he broke through the roof and drove a couple of meters over it, leaving a trench. Exhaling, he looked at his bloody hand. He didn't even realize his face was covered in blood. You should control yourself and know the limits of your abilities, Hex said, approaching the hero. You see, there is such a thing as a beggar, and you are one of them, unawakened, he continued to say with madness on his face. Now I'm going to ask you 3 questions. What will you do now? Will you run away like a coward again? Or will you continue to fight me with your useless awakened skills? He continued to ask, taunting Taeyong as he continued to lie on the ground. Newly awakened ones get their own skills and ranks. F rank. It's the initial rank where you're practically no different from a normal person, and this path ends with getting S rank. At this rank you can call yourself a real monster. Physical abilities and skills develop at the expense of each other, the hero began to think. But what I got is a horror. Rank F, as well as the yet-to-be-understood skill Predator. I definitely cannot cope with X, especially he has a C rank, continued to think the hero, and analyze what he has. But I have this weird feeling, Taehyun said, after which Hishu turned his attention to him. The main character started to stand up. Some strange energy started to emanate from his body. I have a feeling that I won't lose, he said while this red mist covered his whole body. Behind him, it was as if a tree was growing behind him with red branches hanging from it. Hishu watched in horror as red circles loomed around the hero and the silhouette of a red snake or dragon above him. What kind of stupidity is this? I don't believe it. Have you really awakened? A lowlife like Kim Taehyun was able to awaken? He shouted and asked. So that's what the Predator is. I can feel every flow of magic, it obeys me without any restrictions, thought the hero as he looked at the red energy. After which he looked at Hexa. Daehoon's eyes were red, filled with vengeance. So be it that you awakened, it will be over right now. shouted the stone man who flew straight at the hero. The main character hit with a stream of magic. He easily stopped Hex, who was rushing at him. How is this possible? He asked fearfully as his stone cover split and flew in different directions. Daehoon didn't answer, he just amplified his strength to remove the cover completely. He kept intensifying until his eyes started to turn red. Still, he removed that hard cover and Hashu screamed in pain. But the predator's power didn't stop. Because of this, small scarlet sparks began to appear on the roof of the school, until they grew into a huge tornado or explosion. Nothing could be seen on the roof of the building but dust and stone shards. He stopped the effects of his skill until there wasn't even a spark left on his body. Hashu's exhausted body began to fall. After it fell, a message popped up to the protagonist. The devouring has been completed. As a result of the devouring, your rank F has been upgraded to rank E. You have also gained a new skill. Skillstone Skin, you can use it at any time. Whereupon, Taehyun's hand became completely stone like Hashu's. The hero came to the nurse's station. What? The nurse was surprised. She saw Taehyung in front of her, carrying a trio of bullies on his shoulders. One of them fell down on the way. Good afternoon. He said hello to the nurse, showing his bloody face. What happened here? She shouted with very great surprise, getting up from her chair. After our scuffle, I carried them all to the nurse's station. The nurse cured me, with her healing skills. The hero told us while the nurse used healing magic. Well, to explain how we got into this situation, I had to lie. Well, and I managed to convince her without too many questions, he said, remembering how he got out of the situation, saying that they just fell down the stairs. But the most important thing is that I'm healthy. Today is my day. I've gone back in time, in addition to waking up and dealing with my abusers, thought the hero as he walked down the street to his house. However, there is one problem. In the Predator, he added. My rank, which I've wanted to raise my entire past life, went up right after the first fight. I don't think that's normal, Taehyun reasoned. The strangest thing is that it's just a skill of the most basic rank, and its power is the same if not more than C rank. So I can even absorb other people's skills. The hero continued to think, remembering what he did to Hashu. Why did that creature named King give me such a powerful force? And why did he bring me back to the past? I have millions of questions, he thought as he walked up the stairs. But still, there is only one thing left for me to do, he said after he was at the top of the stairs. I need to learn more about my skill, said the protagonist as he walked up to the door of his house. It's been a while since I've been home, he said smiling. When my parents died, I started living at my uncle's house, he added, remembering the good times spent with his uncle and his family. The hero smiled and decided to go inside. I'll have to find more information on similar skills, he said as he stepped over the threshold of the house. But then he noticed something. There were 3 strange people in front of him. 2 of them were wearing masks, and one was sitting on a chair as if he was the leader of this gang. What are you doing here, Kim Taehyun? The boy asked. The protagonist remembered him. It was his uncle's son. Hwang Jaein, aren't you supposed to be in school? Surprised, he asked. Suddenly, he noticed something. His money was lying on the floor. Out of fright, Hwang dropped that box. That kid, Taehyung said. As far as I remember, Hwang always wanted to make friends with gangsters and such. So he took all the money from the house and got into a lot of trouble, he recalled as he listened to the dialogue between his cousin and the bandits. Who is this guy? The masked bandit asked. And this? Hwang nervously interjected. The leader of this gang stood up from his chair. I didn't know it would be today exactly, added the hero, watching cousin whisper in the ringleader's ear. I see, and I thought who it was that came to us, but it's Jane's cousin, he said, in a very serious voice. We'll take what we were promised and leave, Unless, of course, you want trouble, said the fancy pants leader. Unawakened big brother, he clarified, taking Taeyang by the head. Good, I was just about to try out one thing, said the hero, fearing nothing. What do you mean by that? The blonde asked, followed by a fist rushing into his face. The hero nailed him to the floor, causing the laminate to crack. The ringleader coughed in pain. At this sudden turn, everyone in the room was shocked, except for Taeyang himself. The main character raised his hand to summon his skill. This hand he brought it very quickly to the blonde man's head, whereupon he began to yell. Stop! Don't! Predator! Shouted the hero, but nothing happened. He didn't understand why the skill didn't work. But after that, a message popped up for him that the predator skill was unavailable. After reading that, his face filled with fear. The ringleader didn't understand what was about to happen either, and continued to lie there trying not to move. How is this possible? The predator doesn't want to activate? The hero asked to himself. You! The headman said, and swung his foot at Taeyang's face. You're a fool, big brother Daehoon! Shouted Blondie, hitting the hero's face with all his might with his foot. He flew off to the side, and just fell to the floor. Now you're going to regret it! The headman continued to threaten, ordering his subordinates to finish him off. Both of his men possessed rank C skills, one wielded magic chains and the other poison mist. And the ringleader himself wielded vines that caused bleeding, they were also C rank. They all aimed their spells at the main character. He was wiping himself from the blood. From Daehoon's apartment, a white, unnatural glow was coming out. The bandits stopped using their skills. How do you have the right to pretend to be pro-wired? You've got a nerve already, said the blonde, holding his hand out. Skill usage has been detected, said the system, and then inside the purple poison mist, a red glow and a silhouette of a man appeared. The entire gang was shocked by what they saw. The predator skill absorbed those directional spells. Due to the magic power, the predator skill was successfully activated, the system added. Interesting turnout, isn't it? The protagonist asked with a mad smile, additionally activating the stone skin skill, only on one arm. What's going on? The blonde man thought nervously, backing away from the wall. The next moment, Taehyun started running towards him. He then punched the ringleader, and knocked him to the floor, hitting him directly in the face. Why is he so strong? The blonde man asked himself, with his nose broken and teeth knocked out as the hero continued to beat his body. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, don't forget to put a bark and subscribe. These you say what you like, it's very motivating, thanks. Good luck to you.